Welcome back, everyone, for another deep dive. And today we're stepping into a world that I'm sure many of you are familiar with, Peter Pan.
Yes, Peter Pan, published in 1904.
Okay.
It's by the Scottish novelist and playwright J.M. Barrie,
And it's the story, of course, of the darling children, Wendy, John, and Michael.
and their adventures with Peter Pan, the boy who wouldn't grow up, in Neverland.
Neverland. They meet the Lost Boys and Indians, pirates too.
Captain Hook.
So our mission today is to take a fresh look at Peter Pan and see what it has to say about childhood, about memory.
About that longing for a world beyond reality.
Exactly. We want to uncover some details and meanings that maybe you haven't considered before.
Maybe even spark a new perspective.
So to begin, let's talk about Nana.
Nana, the darling children's nurse, who is, of course, a Newfoundland dog.
Right. And there's an interesting reason behind that, actually. You see, the Darlings, they weren't very wealthy. Part of the reason was, well, the children drank so much milk.
Yes. So they decided to employ Nana. She was a Newfoundland who'd been keeping an eye on prams in Kensington Gardens. She was very skilled in childcare, you could say.
Right. And she had this wonderful sense of knowing just what to do with the children. Like Barry mentions that she didn't approve of careless nursemaids.
Oh, not at all. She'd actually follow them home and then report their shortcomings to their employers. Can you imagine?
It's just brilliant, and it shows us a little bit about how people viewed childcare in Victorian England. It makes you wonder what the neighbors must have thought.
Well, certainly Mr. Darling had some anxieties about it.
Yeah.
But I think it also shows how comfortable people were with animals in their lives back then.
That's a good point. And think about bath time with Nana,
Yeah,
supervising.
and she always knew when they needed attention,
Mhm.
whether a cough was serious or...
Or just needed a rhubarb leaf.
Exactly.
Yeah.
She had her own ideas about illness.
Right, and all this modern talk about germs, I don't think Nana would have been impressed.
I think you're right about that. She was a bit more old-fashioned in her approach.
But effective, nonetheless. And her daily routine, taking the children to Miss Folsom's kindergarten.
Oh, yes. She'd walk beside them, very composed, if they behaved. But if they strayed, just a little nudge to bring them back in line.
And on John's football days, she never forgot his sweater.
Often carrying an umbrella, too, in case of rain. You know, it's that mix of practicality and absurdity that makes her so memorable.
It really is. And the picture of her in the nurse's waiting room, it's just priceless.
All these human nurses chatting away,
Mm.
and Nana just lying on the floor.
But as Barry points out, that was the only real difference between them. Nana found their light talk beneath her.
She certainly did. She had higher standards, you could say.
And she'd get the children ready for visitors.
Oh, yes. Michael in his best pinafore. Wendy's hair smoothed down. Even maybe try to tidy up John a bit.
She took her role very seriously.
Absolutely. She had a sense of pride in them.
But Mr. Darling, while he appreciated Nana's, well, her management of the nursery,
She did run it rather efficiently.
he worried about what people thought. Having a dog as a nurse wasn't exactly the norm. He was concerned about his standing in the city.
I suppose it wasn't the most conventional arrangement. But Mrs. Darling always reassured him that Nana thought he was wonderful,
And she'd encouraged the children to be extra affectionate toward their father.
leading to those lovely dances they'd have as a family, sometimes even with Liza, the servant.
It was a happy family, at least until Peter Pan arrived and turned everything upside down.
Which brings us to the next fascinating aspect of this book. How Barrie portrays a child's mind.
Oh, it's brilliant, isn't it? He talks about it like a map.
Yes, a map of a person's mind. And he says a child's mind, well, it's confused.
Constantly moving, too.
With zigzag lines.
Yeah.
Like roads in Neverland.
So not very organized.
Not at all. And this map, it's full of the most amazing things.
Coral reefs.
Rakish crafts.
Savages.
Gnomes. Mostly tailors, he tells us.
And taves.
With rivers running through them.
Princes with lots of older brothers.
A decaying hut.
And an old lady with a hooked nose.
It's a blueprint for countless adventures.
And it makes you think about how differently children experience the world. They don't try to make everything neat and orderly like adults do.
No, they embrace the chaos, the constant change.
And then on top of all that, he adds things like the first day of school,
Religion,
fathers,
the round pond,
needlework,
murders,
hangings,
verbs that take the dative,
chocolate pudding day,
getting braces.
and pulling out a tooth. It's all jumbled together, isn't it?
Absolutely. It shows how fluid a child's mind is, how everything exists side by side without any clear boundaries.
And that leads us to Neverland itself.
Ah, yes, Neverland. which, interestingly, is not one fixed place.
It changes depending on the child, right?
Exactly. So for John, it might be full of flamingos because he's interested in shooting them.
And Michael, maybe just one flamingo with lagoons flying over it.
Because he's younger and sees things more simply.
And Wendy.
Wendy's Neverland is more domestic. With Leaf House and a pet wolf, it reflects her nurturing side.
It shows how personal imagination can be.
Exactly. Even though they're all in Neverland, each child experiences it differently.
But Barrie also says there's a family resemblance between all the Neverlands. It's like they're all variations on a theme. And he even suggests that we've all been there in our childhoods.
He says it's delectably compact, nicely crammed, with possibilities for adventure.
And it feels different depending on the time of day, too. When you're playing make-believe, it's all fun and game.
But then at night, just before sleep,
Mm-hmm.
it becomes real, vivid,
Almost a little bit scary.
hence the need for nightlights.
Exactly. And it's around this time that the name Peter starts appearing in the children's minds.
Particularly Wendy's, it seems.
Right. And Mrs. Darling notices it. She even says it has this cocky appearance.
A hint of Peter's personality before we even meet him.
And then there's this strange incident where Wendy mentions meeting her dead father in the woods.
A week after he passed away.
It really shows how children can blur the lines between reality and imagination, especially when dealing with difficult things.
Especially when dealing with loss and grief.
And then there are the leaves, those mysterious leaves found in the nursery.
Which Wendy claims are from her game with her father.
Mrs. Darling thinks it's just a dream.
But it turns out it's much more than that.
Because the next night is when the real adventure begins.
The night Nana has off.
Right. Mrs. Darling puts the children to bed, and then she falls asleep by the fire.
And she has this dream. A dream where Neverland feels very close.
And a boy appears. A strange boy.
But she doesn't feel afraid. She feels like she's seen him before in the eyes of women who long for children.
It's as if he's connected to this deep yearning.
And in her dream, he tears a hole in the fabric of Neverland. And she sees Wendy, John, and Michael looking through.
It's like a window into their world is opening.
And just then, the nursery window blows open, and a boy falls in.
With a strange light flitting around him.
Tinkerbell.
Right. Mrs. Darling wakes up and she recognizes him instantly.
Peter Pan. She says he's very like her kiss, which is such a beautiful description.
It's like he represents something she deeply desires.
He's described as this lovely boy dressed in skeleton leaves and tree sap.
But he has all his baby teeth.
A sign of his eternal youth.
And when he sees Mrs. Darling,
he gnashes his teeth at her.
It's a bit unnerving, isn't it? This mix of childlike innocence and something wild.
Absolutely. It sets the stage for the adventure to come.
So we've talked about Nana and the fascinating way Barrie describes a child's mind.
And how that leads to these personalized Neverlands.
Which are all different, but somehow we all recognize them. And then, of course, the dramatic arrival of Peter Pan.
That's all connected, isn't it?
It really is. And it makes you wonder about our own maps. The ones we carry from our childhoods.
What forgotten places and paths they might contain.
And how they might still be shaping us today.
Without us even realizing it.
That's a question I'll definitely be thinking about.
As I hope our listeners will too.
Maybe it'll even inspire you to revisit Peter Pan, or just to spend some time exploring your own memories.
Because within those memories
lie the keys to understanding who we are.
And that's all for this deep dive. Until next time.
Happy exploring.